At Nutanix, we have thousands of millionaires. I always looked at employees as customers. If you take care of your own employees, they'll take care of your real customers.
Yeah. AI can be an exceptional companion, but also a competitor.
Customer service has been offshored and outsourced. Customer experience is a brand problem, and we can't outsource brand. AI provides that big opportunity.
When founders should not be building an AI company.
AI is the new cloud. It's basically the more intelligent computer. I don't think there's any founder who should think of saying, hey, I'll not use the more intelligent computer.
Welcome to this new segment of TIE Talks. Today we're joined by Dheeraj Pandey. Dheeraj was previously the founder and CEO of Nutanix, a company he took public, and now the founder and CEO of another unicorn, DevRev. Dheeraj has led the cloud infrastructure wave in the early days of public cloud. You've led the AI acceleration era. I think there's a lot to unpack and learnings I think that entrepreneurs will benefit from your journey. So welcome, Dheeraj.
Thank you, and it's a pleasure, Amit.
And so, 2 unicorns, 1 visionary founder. What's actually got you going? Is it the thrill of building something new, or is it the impact your products create?
It's probably the latter. In leadership, they say you shouldn't try to be liked. You want to be respected. But as a creator, you want to be loved. As a mentor, you want to be respected. As an entrepreneur, you want to be respected. We built something so good that it actually improved somebody's lives. We did this really well at Nutanix. A lot of the people who are have-nots, who are sitting in the basement of infrastructure, sort of stack in IT, nobody cared for them. And we said, look, we'll elevate their lives. We'll give their nights and weekends back. Let's figure out what that means.
Yeah.
And the same is here true for DevRev as well. We're starting with customer experience, getting to knowing what it means to bring product managers and developers together with support people. So a big focus for me has been, can you build things that people not just like but love?
So it's quite obvious that your journey has been quite purpose-driven. Yeah. And does that purpose go beyond business for you?
Yeah, I mean, to me, business is a means to an end. The eventual end is to, build great relationships. We tend to think of technology as the end in itself, but many a time it's really about thinking about their lives. And when I say their, I mean the end users, the grassroots users' lives. And, the journey for me with AI, for example, is not just about being relevant, which is important, at some level. When I turned 45 in 2020, I'm like, I know very little about GPT. Vinod had asked me this question, like, do you know what this GPT thing is? Because he was an early investor in GPT with OpenAI in 2018. He was also an early investor in Nutanix. And I'm like, wow, I need to really keep myself current. But a big part is also understanding how difficult work-life balance has become. One of my friends, Neelkant Mishra, he talks about this. It's like in 1872, legal week work was 100 hours.
Wow. And
the legal age of work was 12. And obviously the Industrial Revolution had its impact, and, oil and, automotives and automation and everything else basically had an impact to the point where we said, look, we can stop doing those things and start doing things which is 40 hours a week as opposed to 100 hours a week. I think we are back to doing 80 hours a week again because of not just COVID and remote work, but the global destabilization. So I'm like, okay, what should be the real success for AI is to see if it can give our nights and weekends back, and we can really bring back to 40 hours again in a way that's more productive, more efficient, more creative. So I always look for a big element of design in everything that we do, even in my past company and this. And the big focus of design is, what is their minute and the hour and the day and the week and the month really look like? And can we reduce the friction that really comes with all of this?
No wonder your team loves you. I think you have a lot of people who've been with you through 2 unicorns.
People ask me, why do you do companies? One of the big ones is creating personal wealth for everybody.
Yeah.
We can't change the world and make a dent like the way Steve Jobs had talked about. In our own little way, if we can do this for thousands of people, which we did at Nutanix, we had thousands of millionaires and, hundreds of people who made multiple $1 million and so on. And a big part of that was, can we create some sort of freedom for them that they can actually go do things that they want? I think the fact of the matter is, I always looked at employees as customers too. And if you take care of your own employees, they'll take care of your real customers too. Yeah.
So on the point of making millions or rather billions, your previous company took 6 years to become a unicorn, which in itself is amazing. Yeah. DevRev now, less than 4 years. What has changed in your scale-up journey?
So Nutanix, it probably took us 5 years to get to $1 billion. I think what has changed, obviously, was the cost of money. 2011 through 2014, money was still fairly expensive. Interest rates were not as low as when they became in 2019, 2020. Post-COVID, they became even cheaper. And now money is expensive again. But I think the big shift in tech has been really around cloud being something that delivered. Cloud delivered at scale a mall for developers where you could go and shop for anything and everything, with the security that if things don't go right, somebody will take care of it. So cloud delivered. Obviously, social media is delivered to a point where everybody's learning together. I mean, when a new announcement comes about AI, independent of which country you're in, you probably know enough from Twitter alone or LinkedIn alone as to what's going on. You don't have a bell curve of people getting to know things 6, 9, 12 months later. I think what's also changed is hunger. I think there are places where people are more entitled than other places. And it's a level playing field. I think the world is flat. We leverage a lot of that when we go hire people around the world. We have at DevRev, we have almost 600 employees, but we are in every continent except for Antarctica. And we realized that not just customers and innovators everywhere, but also hungry, humble, honest talent that's willing to make a dent and be a part of a startup and take risks and be entrepreneurial. And the job of leadership right now is to actually stitch it all together.
It's quite interesting you bring out that dispersed environment, 600 people across every continent. It's probably allowed you to scale markets faster. With expectations of employees and the organization being very different from what they would have been 10 years ago.
Yeah, by the way, we were always international first, even at Nutanix. We always felt like in this bell curve of adoption, innovators are everywhere. So in my last company, we were trying to find for innovators and early adopters in lots of countries outside the US too. You might find that some segments in the market in the US are way more laggards than the same segments in the market outside the US. Like, for example, fintech and BFSIs, like large banks. I would love to get 100 million users in a single bank as a way to really scale test my product outside the US, then try to go and spend 10 years trying to convince JP Morgan Chase to really change.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Now, DevRev, you're building customer-centric solutions for dev workflows. Yeah. But when you look at AI holistically in the context of your business, what gets you most excited about the problems or the opportunities and the possibilities AI creates?
Yeah. So the name DevRev, Dev is just for back office, people who make products, and Rev is for front office, people who go sell products or support products or grow revenue in business. In many ways, the biggest revolutions in tech have been around this alchemy of things. Like iPhone brought a lot of things together. The internet 30 years ago brought a lot of people and machines together. And the way people wrote documents, generated content, and how others could actually come together on that. So the big opportunity for AI is the alchemy of bringing sales records and support records and user records and cloud incident records and product and engineering records, all of that one place, plus all the documents that people have come to create, unstructured and structured together in one place. And now you're like, okay, how do we unlock the value of this? Both from the employee point of view and the customer point of view. Now, customers, they're like, okay, I dread to be waiting for a customer service person to pick up my call.
Yeah.
So there's already pain on the customer service side, So if AI can actually be a great sort of tool for self-service and do a really good job, then we can say we can only escalate things to humans when it matters. And it's a great way to test the quality of AI, the value creation of AI, by not just being software, but being a real companion and sometimes even a competitor to humans, So we looked at the fringe of the enterprise and said, look, there's massive number of transactions happening on customer experience side, customer service side, customer support side. If we can make that self-serve, nothing like it. With a great search experience, a great workflow experience where most things that have been requiring humans in the loop can be done through automation. I think great things can happen for customers. And companies that have bemoaned the fact that customer service has been offshored and outsourced, they can now really insource it and onshore it and say customer experience is a brand problem and we can't outsource brand. So AI provides that big opportunity. And even on the inside with employee experience, if we can say, what does it mean to unlock team intelligence through knowledge, through discovery of things, through search? I mean, search, we all know of the last 20 years of search in our own personal lives, but it was never something that an enterprise could unlock with all its internal documents and internal data itself. AI has a big opportunity to take natural language first thinking to the next level. And really create people with insights who are generalists as opposed to specialist people. And finally, I think workflows will get redone. And when I say workflows, the idea of automation is not the old world automation. It's bringing prescriptive thinking of code and programs, which, if you take a step back, what has AI truly done, or at least the last 2-3 years, what has it promised? One is it's saying, look, machines will not just take orders. Machines can now think and reason and answer things that otherwise required humans in the loop. So they're getting good at probabilistic decision making, which was in the realm of the human, right? The other one is that generalists can now instruct machines through natural language, which means that I don't need to be a coder to really get things going, So if we could really think of workflows, new next generation workflows that use Intel hardware, but also NVIDIA hardware, and bring that together, where you could actually be prescriptive to a machine through Intel and programs written on Intel, but you can actually be subjective and let NVIDIA make those decisions through LLMs. All of a sudden, you can bring both these things together and you will avoid a lot of managers in the loop, a lot of triage meetings, a lot of escalation meetings that machines can make decisions on. So there's a big opportunity to really bring this search thinking, this analytics thinking, this workflow thinking, and talk about agents that basically skip you having to hire a lot of people to do the same things.
I mean, just the whole impact on the workforce, the organizations, but even at a national level from a socioeconomic standpoint for policymakers should be thinking about the power of AI to actually take away all of this insecurity around offshoring. Everyone wants to bring jobs back to their countries, right? And AI could be that enabler if done right. So hopefully the policymakers would actually listen more intently to what you're saying.
I think we overdid manual work, and it was good because it brought jobs to people. I think there is an opportunity to think of brand, think of how you bring local jobs again through tech and AI. I think there's a big opportunity to actually own the brand one more time, better than ever before, as opposed to look at it as a volume business and outsourceable sort of thinking around, this thing can be outsourced because it's all volume as opposed to value. Customer support to me and customer service to me is always been a profit center. For large brands, has always been a profit center. Brands are never perfect, but when they actually apologize and ask for forgiveness and really correct the problem that an end user was facing, it's been a great opportunity for companies to establish brand that way, including repeat buyers and people who come back.
It's interesting. You talked about how AI can be an exceptional companion, but also a competitor. Yeah. So on that point, there's a lot of reservation around the ethics, job disruption, and governance around AI. You have an inside view on this. How do you build trust into AI-led platforms?
So first of all, anything that is good also has a dark side.
Yeah.
Whether you look at all the way back to the discovery of fire to, even as recent as nuclear power and the internet and now AI. Now the question is, how do you educate people about it? And the piece around trust and governance takes care of itself with good design and engineering. The best companies that will survive this froth, because there's a froth in AI right now, are the companies that will say, okay, trust is not a compliance issue. It's not a checkbox issue. If you look at it as part of design, like the way Apple looked at trust as a part of design, they're like, okay, it doesn't matter whether FBI calls me or CIA calls me, it doesn't matter. Data is personal. And we will never break that trust that we have with our customers. That was engineered into Apple's culture and thinking. I think we have to look at AI trust and governance as not staid terms that I have to put a checkbox because I have a compliance person sitting on my head. But it's like, this is the way I'll get more business. And the best companies out there who will really plow through all this froth, because there will be a valley of despair and disillusionment in this. The markets will crash. But the ones who will come out of this are the ones who did an awesome job of not just latency and reliability and availability, but also on trust and governance.
Every founder wants an AI-first company today, right? Because that's where the hype is. Do you have any advice when founders should not be building an AI company?
Well, AI is the new cloud. It's basically the more intelligent computer. Why has the computer become more intelligent? For one, it is saying, don't try to invent a new language for me. I will learn your language, which is empathy. So I think that's immense, as an opportunity to think of it as a more intelligent companion for us. The second thing is it's saying, look, give me subjective work. I can do pattern matching and correlations and anomalies and all these things in my sleep. If you give me enough data, I can go do that. So given that we have a more intelligent computer at our disposal, we should not even think about the older computer. I don't think there is any new company which is not going to use a more intelligent computer because everybody's looking for one too. I don't think the end users are saying, I don't need AI. If anything, they're like, hey, I need to shine in my career, my job. I need to do work-life balance better. I need my nights and weekends back. So they're all trying to be more productive and more creative, and companies are trying to be more efficient. So I don't think there's any founder who should think of saying, hey, I'll not use the more intelligent computer.
Yeah. Lots of possibilities. I'm going to pick on this whole enablement of the workforce and organizations, right? I think we all agree that public cloud changed the way new emerging tech companies accelerated their journeys, right? I think what OpenAI did was consumerized the use of AI and one part of AI. I think, and that's the misnomer, right? AI has got a lot of layers, but Gen AI is what got into everyone's palms, and all the leaders suddenly realized the possibilities that they could get with AI, how they could enable their workforce, serve their customers better, all the things that you're trying to do, by the way. As a long-term analyst, I see two things happening. Decision-making truly now is at the C-suite level, and often at the CEO's level as far as tech is concerned, especially if you're looking at transformation work. Second, there is a gap in our view that in terms of AI fluency for C-suite leaders, because decision-making is getting stalled in certain instances for companies to invest in tech, just because there's so many options. Like, who do they do it with? How much do they invest? What use cases should they be prioritizing? What should they move from POC to production? And it's really critical also to ensure a sort of robust but secure AI roadmap. Do you see AI fluency playing a huge role in enabling the adoption of AI in the most effective manner for organizations?
If you go back to 1984, what was the big revolution that really happened in computing or in computers? It was the commercialization of the mouse.
Yeah.
It's point, click, and scroll. It's like, okay, there is a new way to interact with the computer. 20 years later, in 2007, another such thing happens with interfaces, a man-machine interface. And that is also a big change from point, click, and scroll to tap, pinch, and swipe. So that was big. Tap, pinch, and swipe. Now, tap, pinch, and swipe never made it to B2B software. Enterprise software was still being run and implemented and designed as if it's 1984. So it's been 40 years and we have continued to use those abstractions of point, click, and scroll rather than what does it mean to miniaturize and keep business software in the pocket of users. OpenAI's biggest innovation was not just the API call that you could make to really make AI lightweight and use it, unlike IBM Watson, that was now you got to invest $10 million to really unleash AI. But also the fact that they built a mobile app that was beautiful. I mean, there was a design in this company. Now, it took 7 years to get there from 2015 to 2022, but they were at it and at it and at it. No different than the fact that AI networking struggled for 30 years until the browser came about. The Mosaic browser came about and so on. So I feel like there's a big design component to this, which is about really putting it in the pocket of day-to-day employees and customers. I feel the new thing that is happening with man-machine interface is really search, answer, and reason. We're basically expecting the computer to provide these three interfaces. An awesome search interface, a great interface for answering questions, which is better than search, not just keyword search, but also give me away how things are related and summarize things for me. So search, answer, and reason is the level of fluency that we actually need for C-level people to really understand. Like, look, what are we really trying to do now? Is, of course, there's a crawl, walk, run here. Reason will take time because it's really competing with human agency. But search and answers absolutely crawl and walk in this.
Yeah.
How do you really start with search? And not just for your employees, but also for your customers. And how do you answer and have calls to action that don't have a human in the loop? I think that's the level of fluency that and clarity that C-level people need. I also feel like for the last 40 years, C-level people never logged on to any SaaS software or business software. They thought it was for practitioners. For the first time, if we make natural language work, and if there's a ChatGPT-like experience for the C-level people to use business software, which is conversational, no training required, ask anything in a psychologically safe search bar-like experience on their desktop or their mobile app, I think that for the first time in the history of tech, executives or buyers and C-level people can be at the same level playing field on data and insights and asking real-time questions as practitioners have been for the last 40, 50 years.
Absolutely. Just quickly, as I wrap up the discussion on the market and what you see with your customers, 2 sectors that you see over the next 5 to 10 years will be the most disrupted by digital natives.
I think we're already beginning to see that with banks and financial services.
Yeah.
Retail, we've talked a lot about in the last 20 years. This idea of Airbnb versus having asset-heavy companies is actually a big one, because now we're talking about social commerce and really crowdsourcing real estate and things like that is big. So travel and hospitality is another area that I feel like is just beginning to be disrupted. What hotels were in the past and what hotels will be in the future, a long ways to go. The idea of ownership versus having a sharing economy is just beginning to actually unleash itself. We'll probably see a lot of sharing in the next 10, 15, 20 years. Within a company, functions like customer service will be redefined. I think what we expect from our personal lives with ChatGPT, we'll try to expect the exact same things from our professional lives as well.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Couldn't agree more. I want to talk about you a little bit, your legacy. So starting with your teams, your customers, your partners, your co-founders, your investors, how would you want people to remember you as a person?
I would say the word fair and the word honest.
Yeah.
I have to be liked.
Yeah.
I think I'm comfortable being respected. I try to bring this in my day-to-day as well in terms of the way I run a company and talk to customers and so on. But these two words really, I think, should define me.
Yeah.
And if they don't, then I continue to work on those things.
Couldn't agree more. And leadership traits that you think are most underrated when scaling tech startups.
I think this is the emotional quotient of things, because especially when it comes to very unforgiving sports like cricket, if you're a batsman or a batter and you make a mistake, you're out. Unlike baseball, you don't get 3 chances. So it's a mental game. You go out there with 100,000 people in the Coliseum. It's not anything to do with your cognitive abilities and your skills. It's really how do you handle pressure. I think entrepreneurship is a mental game more than anything else. Can you sleep well? Can you breathe well? Can you eat well? And can you smile more? And those are the kind of things that you get tested on every day.
Yeah. I think entrepreneurs watching this will love this. And you're familiar with Thai, obviously. And Thai has been supporting the journey of entrepreneurs for decades around the world. And I think one point of view that would be really useful, and I think you shared some of those perspectives right now, but getting more specific, what are the non-negotiables from your experience that founders must consider when they're scaling across new markets?
Brand is an outcome of how humble you are with your customers. You can never growth hack your way into growth, honestly. Growth hacking to me is about bringing engineering culture to go-to-market, which is different than hacking stuff. The biggest non-negotiable is, and I see a lot of founders do this, they sell and run because they feel like once they have the contract, the ball is already with them and so on, as opposed to that's just the beginning. If you don't deliver on those promises, you'll get kicked out, especially in the subscription economy.
Yeah.
There's no way you can actually come back 5 years later. You have to come back every day, every week, every month, really, really, really own customer success.
Yeah.
And that's a non-negotiable. Second one is just efficiency. Money is expensive now, as opposed to how it was in 2020, 2021. So how do you build an efficiently good growth company is a big paradox that entrepreneurs have to balance when they go into new markets. There's only 3 budgets they have or 3 ways they can spend money.
Yeah.
There's sales they can spend money on, there's partners they can spend money with, and there's marketing. And you probably need to figure out 2 out of the 3 new markets. Like which 2 are you going to really focus on between sales, partners, and marketing? And you don't have to do all 3. And you just shouldn't do one alone, So knowing what those 2 out of the 3 are consciously with intentionality is how you build efficient companies.
Yeah. So, there's obviously been a lot of learning for you building Nutanix or building DevRev. But when you started, did you have mentors? And how important has that been for you?
Yeah, there are 2 kinds of them. Ones that I'm really, really close to over the course of the last 10, 15 years. The people like Deepak Malhotra, who is a professor of negotiation at Harvard Business School. We have really good friends. There's mentors like Mike Robbins, who have taught me about vulnerability and authenticity. And of course, there are design people like my board member, George, used to run design at New York Times and is currently the chief product officer at Nextdoor. And AI people like Alex is a really good mentor to me. Alex Demarcus used to be at UT Austin. Yeah. supported his lab through our philanthropy. But now he's at UC Berkeley, and I'm learning a lot about post-training era, because AI is now in a new world post DeepSeek. There's a new way to think about AI than the way OpenAI thought about it. So a lot of people who I pick individual things from, but when it comes to humanism, a lot to do with my children, my wife, my parents, my brother. There's a lot of people that I actually just learn, or at least I'm reminded about humanism.
So this is before, Nutanix became big and you knew all these people, right? Who would have been that one person for you when you started? Like someone that you actually listened to and you said, yeah, I may not follow exactly what you're saying, but I'm listening to you and I'm processing around that.
Deepak Malhotra. We are kindred spirits. We are exactly the same age. Has a point of view on things that I don't have to always listen to. There are times I talked to him and said, look, I don't have to sell this company, and you tell me how I should think about it. And he's given me points of view on that. And I think we've learned together, we've grown together, and I think he's just a fabulous person to know as well.
Yeah. And look, that's quite obvious. That's in your subconscious, because he was the first person you named in a list of very famous people. So, yeah. No, thanks for that. Entrepreneur burnout. Was there ever a moment in your journey where you were second guessing yourself and you said, what am I doing? I'm just tired. I need a break. I can't do it anymore. Did you ever have that, and did you ever have to deal with it?
I've always tried to pace myself in these things. And people these days talk about getting your own time, like quiet time. It gives me a way to also sort of re-energize and charge my battery. Very important for me to muse and get lost in the way I'm thinking and visualizing whatever. I've always looked at this as a marathon, and I'm like, okay, I can't go just so fast for the next 100 meters that I forget about the next so many miles that I need to run. Sleeping is very important for me. I have to sleep well.
Do you sleep 7 hours at least?
6 to 7. I have to breathe well in meetings, because if I breathe well, breath meditation is a big part of self-control as well.
Yeah.
In terms of not being impulsive with your employees and in being in the moment. I mean, knowing what it means to be in the moment without really overwhelming everybody. Being a founder is actually a very important trait that everybody's looking up to you for. So breathing is really important to me. And finally, smiling more. I think I need to smile more, because there are biochemistry things that are connected to smiling that I feel will actually just give you more longevity and staying power. I mean, getting burned out to me is basically saying you overdid something, like you were growth hacking your own life in some sense. Every day, I'm like, okay, I have to look at this as a marathon versus a sprint.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, really.
And by the way, there's no choice. You can't do it any other way, because there will be highs and lows.
Yeah.
And the only way you can actually have staying power is if you said, this is not bad enough. It's not the worst.
Yeah.
This can be even worse. And so I don't get too dejected on the low, and you don't get too happy on the high.
Yeah. And making sure you're enjoying the small wins along the way and getting everyone else around you to enjoy that as well. So I'm going to get into some very quick rapid fire questions. One lesson from one of your failures that you consider priceless.
Moving on.
Yeah. AI startup that you admire the most and it can't be yours.
OpenAI.
Okay. Fair enough. Yeah. Leadership, more sort of hustle or heart? I kind of know where the answer might be, but more heart or more hustle?
It's both. You got to bring both hustle and heart. I would say more heart than hustle.
So be hungry, be humble.
Yeah, and when you bring heart, you bring design, you bring end user thinking, you bring ideas around reducing friction. Hustle is something that you can bring along the way once you have heart.
And if you want to tell your 30-year-old something, your self, when you were 30 years old, one thing you would have done differently when you launched Nutanix?
I wouldn't have done anything different.
Good. How do you personally get yourself to stay ahead of the curve? Because you have been public cloud, AI. How do you do that?
listening intently, being in the moment, interviewing well, knowing what questions to ask so that what they took 10 hours to read, how do you get that in 10 minutes?
Yeah. Okay. Now, this is not a rapid fire. This is just a bonus question. I see 6 companies that have changed the whole evolution of technology. And IBM brought in enterprise-grade technology adoption. Yeah. HP made that distributed through the PC, end-user client sort of revolution. Microsoft enabled software across the enterprise. Google actually enabled the internet and search. And often people look at Apple and they say they love the design and the ease of use. But often what people don't realize, it actually put the digital economy on our palms. Yeah. And then now you have OpenAI, which is democratizing AI. So do you see other companies that have had that massive bearing?
Yeah, I would actually put Intel in this.
Oh, yes, of course. Yes.
And of course, NVIDIA now.
Yeah, of course.
In the last 15 years. But if I were to go back to 80s and 90s, they couldn't commercialize it well, but what Xerox did, what AT&T did with Unix and being the precursor to Linux was actually a big deal. I thought that IBM's good with mainframes back in 70s, 80s. They were good at acquisitions. They realized that to really democratize computing, you need people and you need services. And that's the gap they filled. They were the Palantir before the Palantir. If you think of what Palantir did with forward deployed engineering, IBM really commercialized forward deployed engineering with services, with Lou Gerstner and so on. HP in the 60s, 70s, they were an engineering company. But by the 80s, 90s, they had lost their way. And they're more a distribution company. In fact, once they bought Compaq, it was not even a well-run company. It was highly inefficient. By 2005, they had put $5 billion into sales cost when gross profits only grown by $1 billion. So it was not even a well-run company by 2005. I feel like NVIDIA and Intel definitely need to be in that list that you just talked about. AWS, I think, AWS is the way they democratize infrastructure. I mean, I'm a big fan of AWS in that sense as well.
Absolutely. I think AWS, to me, changed the face of the market landscape in 2010 onwards. That whole move of large, the top 10 tech companies owning most of the market was disrupted because AWS enabled these emerging tech companies.
I'm biased on Adobe and companies of that era as well. Big fan of Oracle, still continue to be a big fan of Oracle.
So to wrap up the list, IBM, HPE, Microsoft, Apple, Google, AWS, OpenAI, Oracle, Intel, NVIDIA. Oh.
And Adobe.
So, and the 12th, maybe there's a 12th that's going to change the way customer experience will evolve.
Well, we want to be an AI company that builds agents which are beautifully designed for our customers, but also be a great agent platform. Like what many companies like Salesforce did in terms of arbitraging Oracle, arbitraging Java, arbitraging data centers. I think OpenAI can be arbitraged with a really good layer of middleware that makes people say, well, this is a beautiful way to build agents in the future.
It's been absolutely lovely. I think you have encapsulated so many different elements of what I wanted to bring out. The simplified articulation of the power of AI, how you've evolved your journey. Thank you for taking the time.
It's been a pleasure.
And I hope that more and more founders that TIE supports get an opportunity to interact with you and learn from this and enjoy the rest of your trip in Singapore.